Okay. All right. Sweet. We're recording on both ends.
Awesome.
Great. Yeah.
Should we introduce the interview?
So yeah, we can just introduce by saying that we're Myra Bowen Phibbs and Gary and Fuller. And could you say your name and today's date and where we are?
I'm Dara Whitlock-Ceaser, and today's date, March the 27th,
There we go.
and we're in my home in Coon Rapids, Minnesota.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
So to start, we'd love to hear some memories that you have, like of your parents or your grandparents.
Well, I have, goodness, there's so many, so many. They shaped who I am, and who I chose to be because of them. So memories I can remember our house full of kids. I had, there were 6 of us. Growing up, I had 4 brothers and 1 sister. And so there was always something happening at our house. There was always somebody, the kids, the neighborhood, South Minneapolis, our house was the place. One of the things I can remember is we never had any grass in the front yard, because we were playing. We were out, outside. And I can remember fishing trips with my dad, and he worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3, to help maintain our home. And my mom was home for a little bit, so that was nice having her home. But then she went to work, and prior to that, my parents owned a dry cleaning business right there in South Minneapolis on 38th and 2nd Avenue. Unfortunately, the freeway came through, and a lot of the homes and a lot of the families and businesses were gone because of it. But they continued on, and we still stayed. The side that we were on, the east side of Nicollet Avenue. Well, that's where it was kind of the dividing line for the black community. It's Nicollet. And so, but lots of activities, swimming. We had just outings, barbecues. I can remember my dad making a barbecue pit out of a bathtub in our backyard. He dug down and put that old tub down there. Grate, had a big old grate. It was, I don't know, they still may be there today. I don't know if they know that it's in the backyard or not, but yeah. So things like that, My parents were involved in clubs, and my dad was involved. This is when I was much younger, but with his church and theater. We were a musical family. Our family was always singing. There was always some type of music. My mother played piano. My dad would play the trumpet. We always had music going in our house. I can oftentimes remember our cousins who lived, and these were the Berries. They lived over on 36 and Elliott. And it was 4 boys and 1 girl. And so they would always come down to our house because again, our house was the gathering place and people could come. But I can remember us dancing to my mother. We had hardwood floors, and back in those days, she would put the paste wax on the floor. And then we had on clean socks. And we could dance. We could just, dance and slide, and of course we were waxing the floor. We didn't realize it, but we were waxing the floor at the time. But it was just so much fun being able to, to do those kinds of things. So those are just some of the memories, early memories that I have of my parents. Very active. My parents were very supportive of us. Very involved in our schooling. So what made it so beautiful was that our schools were basically in succession. The elementary school was up the street. Our junior high was right there up the street. The high school was 4 blocks down. We lived on 38th and Clinton. And so it was a straight shot, And so we, growing up, we never knew when Lewis or Beverly would show up, and they'd be in the hallway or back in those days we called it the cloakroom, behind your coats and stuff. You never knew when they were back there, who was looking at, so you had to be on your best behavior. I can remember my brother Curtis, he just didn't get it. He didn't get it. He would invariably get busted because mom or dad, somebody would see him and he was cutting up in class. And they would, well, back in those days, yeah, he just didn't do it. It was like, Curtis, come on. But love the fact, that we were involved. I can remember in elementary school, I went to the elementary school that was right there behind what is now Sabathany, but it was Bryant Junior High. Warrington Elementary was right behind it. And I can remember looking at the snow today, and we had a sculpturing contest. And my mom was right there with us, helping us to sculpt, this. And we made a rabbit. I can remember a rabbit we made out of this and cut, but it was right there on the school playground, that we did the sculpturing and that kind of thing. So those are good memories, good memories of growing up. It was just absolutely, I really don't recall much trauma. I don't recall much trauma. There was trauma. Every family, has issues. But I don't remember anything that was just so devastating that it, so painful. I don't have those kinds of memories growing up.
Can I ask, how long did your parents have the dry cleaning business, or did that predate you, or when did they start that?
I can remember now, talking about trauma, I can remember the time, so I was in elementary school. So I'm trying to think of the number of years that it may have existed. I can't remember if it was in the early, latter 50s, 59, 60, because I would have been still in elementary school. One memory I have, again, a winter, I don't know why, probably because I see all the snow today, but some trauma. My mother, she had put some beans on the stove, and put them in I can't remember, a big pot, to cook the dinner. And it was such that we could come home for lunch because we were just down the street, so it was not even a problem. It was lunch when you came home. And I came home, and the house was full of smoke. And I can remember my mom, what it was, the beans were burning on the stove was what was happening. It wasn't a major fire, but she had the instinct, the wherewithal, something was wrong. And so she came, I'll never forget, she came sliding down the alley, with her boots on. She was, to come to, but the house was, the fire department was there, everything was okay. But, the fact that, even the fact that the business was right there in the neighborhood, so that, she had access without any real trauma to get to the house. So everything was okay. We weren't all home at the time, but I remember being there. And so I would say the They may have had the business for 4 or 5 years, maybe.
Okay.
Mhm. Mhm. And that was my dad's trade. You know, he was in the service. He was a sergeant in the Army, and he was on the dry cleaning unit.
Okay.
And so he learned the trade, and I can remember being up there in the it's called B&W's, dry cleaning business, Beverly and Whit. I called him Whit, my dad. And so yeah.
Were your parents from Minnesota?
No, they weren't. They migrated here in the 40s.
Okay.
My dad, family origin is in Missouri, St. Joseph, Missouri, Elwood, Kansas. My mom is from Iowa, Des Moines, Iowa. Yeah, so still kind of
Midwestern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we go back. My daughter is doing a research of the family history, so we're gathering information, and it's like, wow. So Virginia seems to be a point of reference for my dad's family. Arkansas is the point of reference for my mom's family. And then they migrated. So my grandmother migrated here. My dad's dad, and they migrated got as far as St. Louis, Elwood, Kansas, in that area. It was during the Great Migration. This Jacob Lawrence, this is his paintings. And it is about the Great Migration. Black people from the South to the North.
Can you remember a time when the neighborhood organized around something?
Ooh. There were a couple of times. One time, well, not one time, but an ongoing was organizing around our park. We didn't live far from, at the time it was called Nicollet Park. And we did not live far from there, and that was our go-to. We could walk, it wasn't even an issue. And my mom and dad and several other community people were involved in having the name changed, and this was after, of course, the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King, or around that time frame, of having the name changed to King Park, Dr. Martin Luther King Park, and it did, and that's what it's still named today. It's King Park. So that was one time where community came together, black and white, came together. The Bloomgrens were involved. The Obergs were very a wonderful family. In fact, I think Nate Oberg was superintendent of Minneapolis Public Schools at the time. And so then it morphs into that organization, those families coming together, morphed into the school system and the school board. And so having, being involved in the whole integration process, and my younger siblings were the ones that affected more, because they then ended up having to, they weren't able to go to Warrington and Bryant, which was right up the street now. They had to go across, because now the freeway was there. So they had to go across the bridge over into, on the west side of Nicollet now, Agassiz. Was the elementary school that they had to go to. So here my little kindergarten brother and my little sister, at the time, they were walking now, having to go away from what we saw as our neighborhood. But I think at the time people thought that was a good thing. They thought that was a good thing to do, in terms of education, in terms of being able to have better education. They thought somehow being in the white community
Right.
would make it better. And we had kids. It was, our schools were integrated, growing up. So it wasn't like Warrington and Bryan were not all black schools. We were integrated.
Yeah.
But, that was that era, and they thought things would get better, equal opportunity. So, but they were very involved and had, in the school system and in terms of change and friends with, like I said, superintendents. They were at our house. They were, we had gatherings and that kind of thing. So my parents were always involved in the community and change agents. So it wasn't a surprise, that I would go that route. My parents were involved in the school system, especially when it got to the high schools. It's called AFS, American Field Exchange Students. So we had exchange students from other countries to come. So we had a student from Ghana to stay with the family. We had a student from Australia to stay with our families, and of course they were involved in the schools, and they were here for a year in our school system. And my parents were very involved with that.
Okay. So civically engaged and involved in the schools. Were there other areas that your parents or other family were particularly involved in, like politically, or that you recall?
In fact, I'm glad you asked, because I had a cousin who, when I talked about the Berries that lived over on 36th and Elliott, the only girl, Rochelle, we called her Rochelle Renee, and she became a Hennepin County Commissioner.
Oh, okay.
Park.
Okay.
And so politically, she was in that status until retirement, basically until retirement. But she campaigned, and she was instrumental in getting there's a beautiful park, North Commons Park on the north side of Minneapolis. The whole swim, she was very instrumental in getting that into the neighborhood so that the kids could be able to swim. Yeah, so Rochelle, actually, at that time she was Rochelle Graves, but Barry Graves, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had, my aunts, uncles that were involved, politically. My aunt was involved with the whole civil rights movement as well, Barbara Berry. My mom and dad were involved. My mom at the time worked for the Star and Tribune and in the library. So in terms of research and photos that are coming in and that kind of thing, she had access to it. I can remember her saying to us, they never once told us not to be involved politically in the movement, in the protest, she was, they were behind us 100%. With the schools take over, the University of Minnesota, we were involved in that. Augsburg College, that's my alma mater, we were involved in taking over the president's office at Augsburg College, which, by the way, today is over 50% African American African people.
Yeah.
When I was on that campus, we were the catalysts.
Right.
We were the ones that made that change. And a very dear friend of mine, family member, Jean Webb, was also on campus, and we also were involved. So we did a lot of protesting. It was great. It was great, and we can see the fruits of it today. you know, what it is that we did, where we were at. So yeah, I mean, there wasn't there was never a dull moment, a down moment. We were always politically astute.
Yeah.
We grew up knowing, you know, and being aware of what was going on in the community and the world.
Could you say more about, like, your activism times with Augsburg?
Ooh.
I'm interested in that.
Yeah. At the time we were recruited, 65 black students from across the nation were recruited to Augsburg. Prior to us coming, there were only 2 African American females. One happened to be my cousin, Rochelle Berry, and the other one was LeJune Lang. Okay, and then there were like 3 African students. I'm sorry, I don't know their names or who they were, but so prior to us coming, that's all that they had. And then they, good Lutherans, opened their hearts and said, oh, we need more. Okay, and so here we came, you know, and I mean, black students from Ohio, from New York, we even had a student from the Virgin Islands. We had, oh man, wonderful, Arkansas, Mississippi. People were coming from all over, and then of course there were a few of us right from Minneapolis, Minnesota, myself and Gene Webb, and oh gosh, yeah, there were. So that was a time, and we had to contend with an ideology that all of us were coming in at a disadvantage academically. That was the ideology. That wasn't the reality.
Right.
That was the ideology. So then what we were told was that we had to take these remedial classes and we wouldn't get credit. What?
Right.
What? We're A and B students coming out of our high schools. What are you talking about? We can't, you know. And so that was the beginning of our protest, if you will. We just like, no, you know, we need to get credit. Why am I taking these classes and it's not going towards my degrees or whatever. So, and at the time there were Black Student Union that was formed when I was on campus. We ended up protesting and taking over the president's office because we just wanted. I can remember us having meetings with the president, vice president of the school, and I called my dad, who was with only had an 8th grade education. And I can remember calling my dad because I knew that he supported what we were about and where we were at. He came to that meeting along with some other community people, you know, and voiced the concerns and that kind. I was never so proud. I was never so proud, you know, my dad taking that stance and supporting us, you know. And so yeah, it was a time. It was a time, and we had great teachers. Some, you know, we had great teachers. My fondest memory of my teacher was Jerry Gerasimo, and he taught sociology class and got my degrees in sociology. I had a great advisor, Dr. Paul Steen, who at the time Augsburg wasn't accredited. They had lost their accreditation for social work. But he had the wherewithal so that my degree, in fact it states to this day, sociology with a social work background, but you know, social work sequence is the word, social work sequence. And so that way it enabled me when I went on for my master's to go right in without losing any credits. But again, it was under his advisory that I was able to do that, and it was well received. So yeah, so Augsburg, we shook them up. We shook them up, and you know, it's no joke. I mean, it was. I don't remember times, you know, when we just had like any race, things like that. And those things didn't happen, but just again, it was the mindset, it was the ideology, it was the curriculum, it was the, you know,
the low expectations.
Low expectations, you know, that we had to fight, and did. Loved every minute. I was blessed. Again, I was talking about my education, and basically I was blessed. I got scholarships to go to Augsburg, and you know, it's a private school, and so in the 4 years back then, which I know probably sounds totally foreign to you guys today, but back then my loan for 4 years
Here we go.
was $4,000.
Well, I think we're about done here.
I know. I can't believe what you guys have to deal with today. It's absolutely insane. But it was $4,000.
But that's wonderful. I mean,
you know, and I was able to get, you know, go through, and I lived on campus, even though I was, you know, a resident here in Minneapolis. I was able to still live on campus, so I was able to experience the campus life and, you know, that whole thing. And then, you know, so I don't have any regrets. I don't have any regrets of attending undergrad at Augsburg College. And then to hear where they are today, I think really speaks volumes to the fruit of our labor, you know, the fruit of what we sacrificed. We all could have been kicked out, we all could have been, you know, whatever, but we were just saying this is so important. You've got to recognize who we are, you know, what we're about. And so, yeah, it was a great time. Great time.
And you sort of brought the ethos of your family and the South Side to
writing.
Like you said, you brought it to them, and your father came.
Yes.
That's incredible.
Yes. Yeah. And my mother, of course, was there at the Star Tribune, and this was also about the time that there was a takeover at the University of Minnesota with black students. And so she never once said, don't you be involved. What she said was, don't be in front of the cameras. So, you know, we knew we could, but just don't be photographed. Don't try not to be photographed. I don't know saying that, but yeah. But we were supportive of the University of Minnesota protest as well. You know, so yeah, the times were tumultuous. You know, they were tumultuous times, and I wouldn't trade nothing for my journey. Nothing. Yeah. I'm just so glad and honored to be to have been a part of it in one way. You know, I wasn't able to go to the South and protest in the South, but we were able to do our part up here because it was just as bad.
I wonder if we could go back to your education at the South Side. Like, you have some memories from elementary school, middle school, high school that you might want to share?
Oh my gosh. There were, you know, I've got some good memories and some bad. When we talk about academics, of course my elementary school I loved it. From the moment I stepped into kindergarten all the way through, I had perfect attendance. I was never absent. All the way through to high school, I had perfect attendance. And so my school life was absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So I don't really have and so everything about it in terms of elementary school was absolutely wonderful. I shared the one experience of us having the ice sculpture outside, and you know, I can remember the picnics, and I can remember when in 4th grade I had my first black teacher. Now I never, up to that point, had not had it. And her name was Miss Lawrence. I'll never forget her, Miss Lawrence. And she came in, she wasn't too much taller than us, 4th graders at the time. And we had this little 4th grade teacher, and she was just, she just couldn't get with us. And of course we ran over her.
Right.
And ran around the classroom crying. And so, so then we just had a little reputation there, our 4th grade class. And I'll never forget when Miss Lawrence came in, and at the time, we had the blackboards and the pointers. The pointer things. And we were sitting on the desk, and we were talking, it was like whatever. Ooh, we knew. When Miss Lawrence came in that door and she wrapped that thing on the desk, and we all went, uh-oh, we knew what that meant. It was like, this is serious. And even kids were trying to, and she told us to sit down and be quiet. And I mean, she took command right away of the class, of us. And some kids were like, well, I crack them. And they got hit with it. So I remember going home. I didn't, because I said, okay, I remember what that looked like. I remember what that felt like. So no, I ain't saying nothing. And I remember going home and telling my mom, Mom, we have this black teacher. And of course at that time we didn't identify ourselves as black. So that was almost like a negative thing that I was coming home saying. And she hit this, and my mother said, what? And I said, yeah, she hit the kids. And that was one thing that our parents taught us, and I'll never forget my dad telling us. He would tell us this: if we were right, he would be behind us. They would be behind us 100% if we were right. If we were wrong, then they'd be on our behinds 100%. So we knew that when we came in, we better be correct, and this is the way it was, or else we would be in trouble.
Right.
So I'm coming home telling my mom this, an experience, and so she was very quietly, she said, So now Miss Lawrence now is calling, which is rare, even for today teachers. You need to connect with the family system. Anyway, she was calling now to say who she was and And I went, she's calling. And so I could hear my mom, I overheard my mom. And she didn't, raise her voice. She didn't, she just said that, if Dara is cutting up, she said, I do not want you to hit her. Which was something different. Miss Lawrence is coming from the South, in the school system where they did have corporal punishment. In the North, that wasn't the case in the school systems. And so she basically was saying, but do not hit her, and you let me know. And so at that point, and from there, she probably got the similar message from all the parents, like that. And I tell you, from there though, we had the best experience with Miss Lawrence. She was a fantastic teacher, and lots of fun. So that was elementary. Got to junior high, and elementary went from kindergarten to 6th grade. Okay. Kindergarten to 6th grade. So now it was really like a rite of passage for us now to be able to go to, because a lot of us, our older siblings were they were like 2 years ahead of us or a year ahead of us or whatever. So now we're following them. And I can remember following, of course, my brother, he was 2 years older than me, Lewis Whitlock. And so he was 2 years old, but to have that rite of passage now, we're 6th graders and we're going to be 7th grade. That was absolutely amazing, and to be able to go to the school right there. Yeah. So Bryant Junior High. And that went from 7th to 9th grade.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
7th to 9th grade. Again, there's that rite of passage. I have my own opinions about the way they've got the school system set up. I just don't think kids are ready yet. I don't think a 5th grader is ready yet to be in elementary school. I mean, in a middle school, 6th. They're not done baking yet developmentally. It's like, there's just that. But anyway, that's the way I grew up with it. And so getting to junior high was amazing. And it was, I can remember, like I said, I grew up in a musical family, you know, so always music. And so what I wanted was to be in the band. Oh my God, and I started out in elementary with the flutophone, and I liked that. I liked the, you know, playing with that little thing. Anyway, so I wanted to be in the band, and I can remember my 7th grade counselor, Miss Wall. I'll never forget. It's interesting I remember these people. Miss Wall, and she told me, do you really think that you should be in the band? Maybe you should take cooking. And I was like, I know how to cook. I don't know how to play an instrument. This is where I want to be. So again, that voice, that assertiveness, that assuredness of who I was instilled in me. It wasn't even a question of thinking, oh, okay, no, what? No, you know, so I didn't. I got into the band. And our band teacher, he was an absolute wonderful person, John Riley. And I was in band from 7th grade on. So I went all the way through high school. I was in band. Loved every moment of it, you know, playing that instrument. I played the clarinet. And my oldest brother, Louis, he played the flute. So, in fact, there's pictures, I'm like, oh, that's right, Louis, I was in the band at the same time, Louis, you know, forget that, you know, he's 2 years older than me. So, just great memories, again, of, you know, games. And Mr. Riley would teach us. He was teaching us how to march. And so because we were just right up the street, we would come out of the band room there, of now Sabathany. We'd come up out of the band room, come down and march straight down the street, Clinton, right in front of our house. And so those were wonderful memories. We'd play. My mom would let my little baby brother be outside when she knew when the band was coming, and so he was able to. Now she didn't, because he was a wanderer, so she kind of tied him up so that he could just be right there at the corner and at the curb, and you know. And Mr. Riley would stop the band right there in front of him, and we'd play, you know. And Paul would he'd love it. He just absolutely loved it. And then he'd march. We'd have to learn how to turn and come back up the street again. And so it was that kind of community, you know, feel was right there. And then, of course, getting to high school, and oh, wow. So now that's 10th grade. 10th graders. And again, to get to high school, to get to Central,
big building and
nothing like it. The halls, I can still smell the halls, you know, the floors. It was amazing.
What was the smell?
It was in fact, when I said it, it came to me. Almost a woodsy, you know, woodsy smell, fresh. You know, the floors were gleaming, you know, huge, and they were old, you know, so it crack. But still, it was like, this is too much. The band room was up on the 3rd floor. Great big bay windows up there, and it was amazing. It was just amazing. So I was involved in everything. I got involved, and that was, again, under the encouragement of my parents. You know, be involved. So not only band, but I didn't get into the choir, even though later in years I sing. But, clubs, you know, and there were clubs, you know, they had them for the, you know, because you had to, it was again a rite of passage, you know, so no, you couldn't be in this club, but when you're, you know, 9th grade, you can be here, or when you're 12th, 11th graders, you know, then you can be there. So it was still something to look forward to, you know, that you really aspired to get up to. In fact, I was just looking at something on the, I'm involved with the, on Facebook and Central Pioneers, they have a Facebook still today. And so just the history of Central, amazing. In the 1900s, the school was there. And, you know, there are people who graduated 1923, you know, the school, this beauty, and basically the building was still there, even back then. So to just be able to look and study and see that these folks, Central was the hub of the community. It was truly, truly the foundation of it. Actually, all the schools. But to be there, so I mean, involved, you know, like I said, in the band and homecomings and, you know, and then when we got to, and again, talking about the tumultuous times, it really, actually, let me back up, because in junior high, in 1963, when President Kennedy was killed, the impact of that hit us. And I can remember, out to this day, I remember I was in 7th grade at the time, and in English class. And I can remember hearing over the PA, they called all the teachers out of the classrooms to come to the office. And of course, back then, you know, you knew to behave. You didn't cut up the teachers. Okay, they weren't in the classroom, and you know, but we didn't really know. And I can remember our teacher coming back, and visibly you could see that she had been crying and just, you know. And when she told us, I was like, oh my God, what? And of course, they let school out. And so we were able to come home. And then, of course, back then, we had television, you know, and then, of course, we got home, and then, you know, of course, the media was playing it, you know, over and over again what happened. But I can remember sitting there and watching this happen and watching it take place. I mean, literally, to the point, even when Lee Harvey Oswald was shot right there, it was right in front of us. He was, you know, and I was like, oh my God. So that really was the beginning of trauma. You know, before then, my neighborhood wasn't, you know, we didn't have shootings, and I mean, it was like, what? We were safe anywhere we went, anywhere we could go and do and be. So then by the time we got to high school, and then again here, boom, now there's Dr. Martin Luther King was shot, Malcolm X was killed. You know, it just kept, it was like, what is happening? It really felt like the world was coming to an end. Like, this is terrible. We're just going to get swallowed up into what? What is this? And so I can remember, I'll never forget that day in high school. Now, that was a trying time, very traumatic. And the word came that Dr. King was killed. And I can remember a little older young people in the communities on the north side, and they came running into the school, you know, and they were wanting us to come out, leave the school. And so we were numb. We were just numb, you know, and I'll never forget that day. And we just all silently, there was no one talking. It was silent. And we got up from wherever classes we were, and we walked out that front door. None of the teachers stopped us. None of the, you know, administration stopped us. We just walked out that door, down that beautiful campus, the stairs, and I can remember walking out into the street on 4th Avenue. And at that time, the 4th Avenue was under construction, so it was tore up, but we walked out there anyway. And then walked south down 4th Avenue towards 38th Street, towards, and we didn't realize, and again, it was silent. We were just walking. We didn't, And I can remember our parents, however, knew exactly where we were and what we were doing. And I can remember somebody or people in the community that hurting us, basically kind of steering us into what was then the Nakarima. What I remember it to be was a private club, because we didn't have the adults didn't have a club that they could go to, and have drinks. So the only way you could be was that you were a member of this club, and then you could bring your bottle, if you will, because we didn't have liquor license. We weren't allowed liquor licenses. And so that's how I remember the Nakarima. And then later, with the shrine, with the Masons, they ended up going, but again, it was a private club. We didn't have the liquor license. But anyway, we were herded into the Nakarima. And, and then they, kind of were able to just kind of debrief, just really kind of just debrief. And they played music, and, we had pop, we had soda pop, and, that kind of thing. And so then we could just kind of talk and see. But at that time, we didn't realize even the danger that we were in, because there were reports of white people shooting and coming, And so, but again, the adults in the community, the business people, they knew. And so there was that protection.
Okay.
So that was a tumultuous time. And so from that point on, high school for me was more human relating. We had classes, but I don't remember the coursework or that kind of thing as much as I remember us sitting down and talking and relating to one another. And we were fortunate to have Richard Wright, the writer, in our school. I met him. Wow. At that time, he came to Central, Minneapolis Central, and so it was like, so it was more of that, and we were on a human relations committee. And we formed one so we could talk and share with one another. There were some times. I mean, some kids were wanting to fight, and some kids were, So we did have some kids who were beating up other people, and it was like, that's not what we want. That's not who Dr. King was or what he was about. And again, we had to talk that through and just really get people to get it. Yeah, we wanted to, the anger, the pain of it all, blow up the world, really the feeling, the sense that we wanted, but we knew that wasn't the way, that wasn't right. So, so those were the times, and really that was, and then even intertwined in that, not long after, then you could still feel us coming back, and we had the games, we had the football games, basketball games, where we could feel some sense of normalcy, in this time. It was
right.
It was really, and even today still pains, and of course, we've got the situation with George Floyd, and it's right in our community. Again, here we go, boom, what? So that really for me was high school. That really was high school, especially the 11th, 12th grade. Those last 2 years there.
Yeah.
And
that's such an age to be experiencing those things, right?
Yeah.
And learning about the world.
And learning about the world, being hit. I mean, you
Right.
didn't, if you didn't know, you were awakened then
Right.
as to what, because it was right before our eyes. It was right before our eyes. And so, yeah, that was something to really grow through,
Yeah.
you know. And I really say, I still say to this day that we had some of the most amazing people, students, that even years later, we still kept a connection. We still, you know, yeah, you know, so our reunions, it was like, oh yeah, everybody's coming back for a reunion, everybody's gonna, you know. Well, in fact, we just got to notice our 55-year reunion is coming up in September.
Did you go?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
That's
I said, no, I gotta go. You know,
Yeah.
gotta go. So those were our times. That was my schooling, you know, and I felt really equipped to step out into the world. I really felt like, yeah, I can do this. And I think that also led to, you know, the Augsburg and,
Right.
you know, university. Yeah, it kind of continued on. It kind of, our voices, we could be heard. We would be heard. You know, you weren't going to silence us.
Yeah.
And that was basically, you know, even through my work experience at the county,
Right.
you know, we made change there
Yeah.
in the county system. You know, getting to, you know, talking about my career. And again, we had to fight. We had to fight. So for me, the child welfare project, so I had to do 2 years of my, what did you call that, internship at the county system. That was part of the grant, part of what we had to do. And 1 year had to be in voluntary social work, and the other had to be an involuntary client. So at that time it was child welfare and then child protection. So I had to do a year in child welfare and a year in protection. Bless you. And you know, and of course that was an invaluable experience. I mean, I came out of there feeling like I can do anything in social work, anything, because it was like, wow, you know, the reality again hit. But we were able to make change, and so then after my 2 years, there, okay, well now I'm graduated, I'll just take my position back. Oh no, they told us, you can't. We're like, what? I've been doing this job. What are you saying? I've been doing this for over a year. Well, you can't take the test. Oh yes, we can take the test. And we will take the test. And again, that fortitude, that, you know, sure, oh no, you won't tell us. No, that's not going to happen. Excuse me. And we did take the test. And we did pass the test. And they had to hire us. Now, I was doing this work for free. Well, in essence, you weren't giving me a salary. I was getting it free. And so again, there we were in systems. You know, we were fighting systems. So that's where my friend Jean Webb and I and several others, you know, in social work, because we were trained to be change agents. We were trained for that. So it's like, wait, what are you talking about? So it was nothing for us to take on, go up to the county commissioners. What? We can't do what? What do you mean there's no black families for foster care? What? And when I was doing my thesis, it was on that at the university. It was on transracial adoptions. And I just, the theme that kept going through the research was that, oh, there's no black families. What? What do you mean there's no black families? We're here. And what was coming out was that, or what I saw was that we did it as a people informally.
Yeah.
Miss so-and-so down the street, her daughter had a baby, look, she can't take care of this baby. Oh,
Right,
okay, well,
right.
Miss and Miss so-and-so over here will take the baby.
Oh.
It was informal. We didn't, and we did have formal. We were involved formally in the system as well, but it was like that was not even recognized. It was just automatically black children were being housed with white people. And the thing that was so horrendous for us was the lack of proper care. That our children's hair was not taken care of properly, skin. What, and then let's get deeper into, the culture. How are they, it was like you're totally disarming that child if they don't understand who they are and from whence they've come, and they're not surrounded in that. You're totally disarming that child now for a society that says you don't belong here, no way.
Right.
So now we've got this little lamb coming into this system again that doesn't want him there, and no
That
wonder.
doesn't have the lineage of, right.
The care, the nurturing, where is that for them?
Yeah.
But you want to say you love them?
Right.
Yeah.
Help us. Get out.
Yeah.
And the system is saying to you that there's no black families to support these children, and you're saying, I know more than you about
Thank
this.
you.
I do.
Thank you.
There are, right.
And as a result, and Mr. Caesar went downstairs, but as a result, in my thesis I said, okay, we're here, we'll foster, we'll adopt. Oh my God, we opened up, we are on the law books, Minnesota law books. We ended up in a court battle with a family that had this baby, granted, since he was 4 days old. Okay, foster care. Foster care can be 1 day to 4 years.
Yeah.
But it's foster care, it's temporary. But they loved him, and now, and we were told, oh, well, you adoption, we went through all the home study and and far outweighed at that time. We just had one child, our oldest daughter, birth child, and so we're like, yeah, we'll do it. What do you mean there's no black families? Here we are. Again, I'm coming from a base of my family, my parents, we, from students from other countries to, somebody else's kid in the neighborhood coming to stay with us because things weren't quite right at home or whatever. My sister bringing somebody, coming to stay. It was not even a question, come. And so that was my base, that was my foundation. And of course, the love of my husband, he just, he was in agreement. Never to know that we would be considered these militant, terrible black people who were trying to take this baby. This case went national. It was national news. They compared it to Solomon, King Solomon, and the baby, and okay, well, this wife wanted the baby, this woman wanted, and they're talking about, are you serious? We were, and that, I'm still working through that years, almost 4 years later. I'm really prayerful, on my spirituality and just needing to let it go now. The young man is now, he's got to be in his 40s now. I was able to see where he was, but anyway, this story gets deeper, but we ended up losing the battle, and it was only because they were white and lived in Wazetta.
Uh-huh.
They lived in Wazetta. And he was the chief of police in Wazetta.
Uh-huh.
But if you compared the merits of the two families, we far outweighed them. Educationally, you know, they had 3 children. And children were in trouble, you know, with the law and what have you. Okay, well, yeah, but we far outweighed.
Right.
Ended up in an ugly, ugly battle. And like I said, we lost the battle, but not the war, because then we were able to, and this is where community people came together and supported, because we were able to be that voice to say, this is what's happening, and this is where we are with it.
Right.
So community people came together, legislators came, you know, people, and so we were able then, with the support of the community, able to have a act. It wasn't a law, but it was an act, and it was called the Minority Heritage Child Welfare Act, and it was patterned basically after the Indian Child Welfare Act, and so that, you know, the preference. We're saying, search. Why aren't you searching families? Why aren't you searching community? We're here, but the county, the system was not doing that.
Yeah.
And so that we were able to watch that with the assistance of Randy Statton at the time, and he was a representative, and Linda, I'm blanking on her name.
A state legislator? Okay.
Oh boy, okay, I'm blanking on her name right now, but I know it's Linda. And
we can look it up and fill it in.
Okay, great. Anyway, they, you know, we were able to help tweak and, you know, do whatever with this law. And we were able, Joe and I were able to sit and watch that go into effect.
Yeah.
And so now systems had to look at, you know, the preference for these babies, for our children. And in the meantime, after the whole court thing, the county comes back to us and says, oh, we have a baby, okay.
Yeah.
And basically, it was like, here, you know, so don't start up no more. And we were actually blessed with our son, and we named him Kofi. And because he was born to us as a Ghanaian name, African name, means he was born on a Friday. Well, he was born to us on a Friday, and so Kofi, and we were blessed with him. He transitioned 2 years ago, and you know, that's still very, very hard for us. And, you know, again, raising children, you know, you had the ups and the downs and the in-betweens of it all, and that's part of it, you know. But loved every minute, loved him, still love him to this day. So, yeah, so, you know, on top of all of that, so there was another part of us being a change agents, that, you know, was just understood, not necessarily for us, but for us as a people, for our children, you know, the preservation of our children, of our heritage, of our culture. And so, yeah, that was us. So when you come, you know, that's why I say I'm so excited to be able to tell the stories, because I don't think very many people really remember, or, you know, even know that, this is what was happening, you know. So it's good. It's good. It's a good feeling to be able to get it out and have it written down. Jeannie and I keep saying we need to write a book We need to write a book.
Yeah.
We
Get it
need
in
to
the record.
and a
right?
Yeah.
It's like, wow, but this may be the very thing that
Yeah, it kind of kickstarts that.
can kickstart it, yeah.
Can I ask, were you living on the south side still during the whole, like, how long did you live in the neighborhood?
I lived there, well, grew up, South Minneapolis, got married, South Minneapolis. Our first home was on 36 in Chicago.
Okay.
Okay.
Lived there for 16 years. And then from there, and this is what catapulted us out, when they tore down Central.
Okay.
When they closed Minneapolis Central High School, that was devastating. That was another trauma. That was devastating. That never should have happened. That was political and it was crap. It never should have happened.
Yeah.
And it was the demise of the community. That was the only school right there, Central.
Right.
Minneapolis is right there. And they tore it down for
So
political
after the early
reasons.
80s, you,
Yeah, because then I'd say, my kids, they were growing up, I said, oh yeah, kid, come here, look over here, you guys are going to Central. What?
Yeah.
We fought and we fought and we fought. My youngest brother was the last graduating class of Central in 85. Yeah. Terrible, devastating, never should have happened. And then they turn around and build a elementary school and try to appease people by calling it Green Central.
Yeah.
Really? That wasn't it. That still doesn't set right with us. So then up into the early 90s, when we moved, 90, let me see now, my oldest high school, so we were out in Brooklyn Park then. So it was the early 90s,
Okay.
so we moved to Brooklyn Park.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're coming up like about on an hour.
Okay.
Are you still feeling
I'm
like you have more to say?
okay. I mean, if there are more questions, I don't know if this is enough for you.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
There is a kind of a little exercise that I'm wondering if you'd be willing to try.
Sure.
We're really interested in like the sensory, the embodied feeling of the South Side. And so I'm wondering if maybe both of us could like kind of close our eyes and I just want to ask you take us back to your neighborhood and what are we seeing? Who's there?
Well, maybe I can take you from
Yeah.
let me take you from a walk home from school
Yes.
one day.
Perfect. Yeah.
Take you from a walk home from school.
What are we seeing on your way home from school?
And then coming home from high school, because
Okay,
that would
okay.
be the farthest away, so that'd be about
Okay.
4 blocks up from us,
Okay.
from where we are. So walking down, and we'd always come down down 4th Avenue, because we just didn't come down Clinton, which would have been straight down. We went up 4th Avenue all the time, but because that's where all the action was, that's where the business is. So, coming out of the school, a nice summer day, or spring, and walking down 4th Avenue. Of course, across the street is the delicatessen. One of my student classmates, his dad ran the delicatessen there, right there on the corner. It's that catty corner from Central. And we would skip classes and run over there to the delicatessen. We knew we were supposed to be in there, and the teachers knew we were supposed to be in there. And he'd make the best greasy hamburgers, And then, of course, there was music, and we could be dancing and stuff. And, oh, wait a minute, I can see Mr. Bowman, and he's standing in the door. Mr. Bowman is one of the teachers, black teachers, and all he does is stand in the door. He doesn't say a word, and we all get our purses and file past him and get back into the school. But on that day too, okay, now we're coming home and walking, and you know, friends and talking and carrying on, and go past the our library, Hosmer Branch Library, is still right there on 36th and 4th Avenue, and remember that, and coming down, still walking, because I'm coming to 38th, and I meet up with my younger brother, Curtis. He's 2 years younger than me, and he's you know, he's Curtis, and he's doing his thing, and so now we get down to 38th and 4th, and of course right there is the, well, we passed the Young Brothers barbershop, and oh, I forgot about Webb's barbershop up there on 36, because they had like two or three barbershops right there, black-owned barbershops, and Mr. Sam, he was the shoemaker, shoe repair. His shop was right there on 4th Avenue and 38th. At the time there was another delicatessen down right there on 38th. It was called Schofield's.
Right.
Schofield's, and they had literally the soda fountain and the whole thing. That was, you know, a black-owned family, black-owned business, I mean, and so, you know, we could always go in there, you know, the store across, we had a little grocery store across the street there on 4th Avenue. And so just coming down, I can remember there, I don't know if you know stories like Ned the Wino or here, anyway. And we had people like that in the neighborhood too, but they were harmless. There was no, you know, and I can remember coming down, because I had on this little outfit, and I had on these stockings, and they were black. My stockings were black. And I'm standing on the corner now, me and Curtis, and, you know, some other people get ready to cross so we can get on down to Clinton. And the man says to me, he says, ooh, he said, Black Widow leg lady. I remember screaming, and Curtis, my younger brother, standing up, you know, you don't say that to my sister, you don't, you know. But again, harmless, I wasn't in any harm, and but yet Curtis was my protector. But getting past that, and just the, you know, the warmth, the sunshine, trying to remember, do I remember really any specific smells?
Yeah, smells.
In the community. We didn't have like a bakery. Let me take that back. Yes, we did have a bakery. We had a bakery up on 36th and 5th Avenue. And it was the Tasty Bakery.
Right.
And now it's an apartment complex. But oh gosh, that's where we would go field trips there in elementary school, to the bakery. It was like, oh my goodness, loved it. But you could smell bread being made, yeah. What else would be out there? We didn't have, I don't remember, like a barbecue joint. But unless there was one of the clubs down the street, the Masons, or the Nakarima Club. You know, if they were doing a barbecue, having a barbecue dinner, of course you could smell barbecue, you could smell that being grilled. Yeah, just...
What kind of things would you hear walking home from school?
Of course there were cars up and down the street, not busy. Buses. We had a bus going up and down 4th Avenue. Glenwood 4th Avenue bus. It would take us all the way to the north side. Brings it downtown. What other kind of sounds? Kids. There's always kids in the neighborhood. Families, you know. Babies. Conversation, you know, so even coming down the street, you know, people would be out, you know, on the sidewalk or in the yard or whatever, you know, even the proprietors would be outside of their businesses sometimes and just, always speaking, always, we always acknowledge the elders and who they were, that kind of thing, respect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Depending on a given day, we had churches.
Uh-huh.
So there was a church right there on 38th and 4th Avenue, Church of God in Christ. They were that church was very different from the church I went to, which was further down the street on 4th Avenue, St. Peter's. AME, African Methodist Episcopal. We weren't as, for lack of a better word, lively as a Church of God in Christ. They had tambourines going, and organs going, So that was always something to, hear that and want to peek in and see what's going on in there. And the Holy Ghost Church, we used to call it, Holy Ghost Church. So that was always exciting to see what's going on. And then because we came around the corner and down to St. Peter's. And it was so that experience was very different. We didn't have, it was more reserved, if I could say. I can remember there was one mother of the church, and the way they sat, they wore these little white pill hats with ribbon tied underneath, and it was white. And there was one mother, and she would be the only one in the church, because one of the cultural things in the black churches was called a call and response. So as the preacher's preaching, the pastor's preaching, the congregation responds to the, where, just like you're doing, It's like, yeah, that's the same kind of thing. But in the AME, oh no, you just, stoic, you just, and which is much different than what's happening today. They loosened up quite a bit, but back then it was like no. And I remember her, Mother Taylor, and she would be the only one who was basically allowed to respond back to the preacher. She was the only one who could do it. So when the preacher would have, she'd go, "Amen, preach, help yourself," she'd say. And we just thought that was hilarious. But that was Mother Taylor, so just in terms of a church experience. And then a little further down was, well, they changed the name to Sabathany. So that's where Sabathany Community Center now has its name from the church that was directly across where the co-op sits now. That was a church right there. And that was a Baptist church, Black Baptist church. So we had Black Baptist Church, Church of God in Christ. We had an AME, African Methodist Episcopal Church. We didn't have like a bunch of liquor stores and stuff. We didn't have it in the neighborhoods. It wasn't there. Wasn't there. So that was basically it. On the east side of Sabathany, now there was another grocery store that sat right there on the corner of 38th and 3rd. And I forgot about that when we were talking about a month or so ago. And that store was called Carpenter's. Carpenter's. And we could go in there, and he'd have penny candy and, stuff like that. Groceries, that kind of thing. But yeah, so there was like two little grocery stores. So yeah, there's just such good memories.
Thanks for taking us on that little walk.
Okay.
Yeah. That was so fun.
Great.
It's so clear, like the warmth that you feel when you talk about it.
just warm. That's exactly the feeling. Just warm, secure memories. You know, just secure.
There's something about memories of your neighborhood when you're a child.
Mm.
Like as you were doing that, I'm remembering things about my neighborhood.
Okay.
Then I go back there today and I think it's the same stuff, but well, and in my neighborhood, it's like, oh, it's the same stuff, but I don't feel,
You know,
I'm not a kid anymore. It's like, it's a normal business, but when you're a kid, it's like,
yeah. No, and I'm gonna tell you, going back even now, it just feels like.
And it's so different there.
It's so different. It is not. I don't recognize it.
Yeah.
So they, we talk about grief, loss, separation. There's that.
Mm-hmm.
There's like, oh man, it's gone. It's gone. So yeah.
On that note, I know that we asked you a similar question at that event, last month, but what's a way that you'd like these memories and these stories told to the broader public, or how do you want the South Side to be remembered?
Again, I think that with, I don't know, a mural, just recognizing those black families that made up the Southside community. The businesses, like I said, I can name them. I can tell you who was there. I know those families, I know those businesses, So something like that, in one sense visual, because we are visual people. So to be able to visually see something like that in the neighborhood, I don't know, in terms of, we're talking audio, some kind of way, maybe YouTube, something on YouTube, I'm thinking, with how social media is today, which is very different from my experience. My kids go, Mom, can you, I was like, oh, how do you do this? But something on YouTube, or, maybe a PBS documentary, showing the south side of Minneapolis and, possibly what was there. I heard a suggestion about some mapping, kinds of pointing out, things that really are historical to the south side.
I envision you in a documentary. We have some nice tapes.
I love it. I would absolutely love it. I would love it. That's a theater piece in me. No, I'm not. But that's, because again, we come from that background, My oldest brother, there's things at Sabathani that I think Sabathani can be a hub for that. I know they've got one room that they've got some things up there, some historical pieces, but it's not enough. I don't think it tells the whole story. Much more.
What do you think might be missing?
Well, again, I think what's important was the emphasis of that was a thriving community, economically. Thriving, and that's missing, I think, to see. There's not enough in terms of community, in terms of neighborhood, bringing the dollars back into the neighborhood. I think that piece is missing, to be able to see that was very intact, very intact. To show more about the schools, Where's a picture of Warrenton? It's not even there. It's not even there. You just got a vacant lot that has been that way for over 50-some years. vacant.
There's no commemoration at this place, right? Right.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. You know, or even to show where it was Bryant Junior High School, and now where, you know, of course now we don't even have. I mean, we've got pictures. We've got, you know, where we can show where Central High School was. You know what that, because again those were the center points of the community. Everything revolved around that. You knew when there was a game. You knew when there was a football game at Central. Because it was right up the street. The field was right there.
Yeah.
Well, now it's housing.
Yeah.
You know, it's gone. But, you know, so you could hear the band. You could hear the crowd. You know, you could hear the, you know, so you wanted to be there. You wanted to be in there. So, again, those are the things that are missing, that somehow we can capture that. You know, that this is what it was. You know, our young, they don't even know.
Yeah.
They don't even know. Yeah. So something along that line, that you could be a part of that, you know, be instrumental in getting that done. I mean, you know, we've got the artists, we know, you know, people who could easily do that. If some kind of way we could start out with something like that.
Yeah.
You know, the history, it's important.
Yeah.
It's like you were talking about with the foster system.
Mm.
Everyone's there.
Yeah.
It's just about if they're being reached.
Exactly, exactly. Right here.
Hopefully we've done some of that work
Yeah.
today.
I feel like it. I'm, you know, I feel.
Good.
Now, I don't know where you're going to take it from here, because I can just name so many more people that can tell their stories, that, you know, this thing can become huge.
Yes.
It can become huge.
The nice thing is that even though we are just in this class for another 5 weeks, Greg has been involved for so long, and the project has the air in it
Yes.
to continue. So everyone can add building blocks as time goes on.
And
Yes.
we're really, this semester, we're responsible for coming up with ways and directions that it might continue to go, even
Okay.
after we're gone.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Because now, what degrees? Where are you guys at?
I have one more year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm at the beginning of a PhD, so I have
Oh wow!
years
yes.
to go.
That's all right.
Um,
That's all right.
But doing research, and actually
Yeah.
one of the things that we were thinking of for a way that the oral histories can continue is a model based around people interviewing people that are known to them. So your friend who you were going to call,
Yes.
you could interview her,
Oh,
Yeah.
and
See,
you'd
that
both
would be
be
great.
compensated and supported, and that way the interviews can continue
Yeah.
being done by people who are
that's a great
friends and
idea.
family members and
Yeah.
loved ones. And
Mm-hmm.
Or intergenerational. Yeah.
all
That's
that
a
stuff.
great idea.
But we just can't thank you enough. For
Well, thank you.
For today.
I am so honored. I feel so humbled to be able to be a part of this, and I feel like it's an honor to the people whose shoulders I stand.
Yeah.
I stand on.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, their stories have to be told.
Yeah.
We would not be where we are today had it not been.
Yeah.
So yeah, such a strength in that.
Yeah.
Such a strength. Yeah.
Thank you, Dara.
Yeah.
Thank you.
so
I'm gonna cut the
much.
recordings.
Okay. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. You make me cry up in here. This is